Hey everyone, it's Gurinder from the Den, and just wanted to make a video on proof of work versus proof of stake. I think there's a lot of just information that needs to be known for us to make a better decision on, what might be the better consensus algorithm for us to uh, use for cryptocurrencies and any other types of blockchains. The the first thing that I want to point out is that I think a lot of people don't really have a good understanding of proof of work is. I think a lot of people just know what proof of work is, but not really about why it functions the way it functions and why it's so strong, and that it actually allows opportunities for entrepreneurs to create new um, chips, basically that has an advantage, basically that something you cannot do on proof of stake. So I think the first thing that I really want to point out, the issue that I really have with proof of stake, is that um, money always makes more money, and someone who lives on a lower amount of income compared to somebody who lives on a higher amount of income that you know lives in the same location, same standard of living, the person who obviously has the more income will be able to save more money, which could basically uh, use to the people who has making more money will be able to save more money. In a proof of stake system like Ethereum, would then be able to save more money and buy more Ethereum, stake more money, and make more money. And it's just a never-ending cycle. The people that have the most money will also make the most money, and there's just no work around it. That's really my concern about proof of stake. And the other concern that I have is that you have to buy Ethereum in order to support the system. Um, in a way, I feel like it kind of artificially drives the price up because you're having to buy it to stake it. It's not really something that's, you know, it just doesn't feel like there's like real competition or anything like that in the system. Whereas in proof of work, it's completely different, because um, you have all of these competing systems. And so, what do I mean by that? So, what it is in proof of work, you have these cryptographic miners that basically are solving these hash algorithms to solve a problem called the hash cache problem. And they're all racing each other, trying to make their computations faster than the other miners so that way they can find this block. Once they find the block, they then send this block to the other miners to validate these blocks. And once there's a 51% consensus amongst all the miners, then that block becomes a valid block, and now that becomes the longest chain. The system that you can do in the proof of work, or the benefit, or what an entrepreneur can do with proof of work is, imagine, obviously people are going to say, well, it's centralized, like proof of stake wouldn't be. Obviously the person who makes the most money will also validate the most transactions and blocks. But with proof of work, you, yes, of course, have some centralized mining. But again, these people are, supporting the system, because obviously if they destroy the system, um, they would lose all of their money. So proof of work and proof of stake are both the same in being centralized. But the difference you can do in proof of work is, imagine a person in a third world country who's just an engineer and comes up with a faster chip, an ASIC mining chip. And, this person has no money, but then can go find an investor and start manufacturing these chips, and can now actually have beat out all the other miners. And this also secures the system as well, increasing the hash rate of the blockchain, makes it even more powerful. So this ability of an entrepreneur, somebody who doesn't have any Bitcoin, that could then take out all the other miners, and eventually, and then eventually being able to come up, which is something that you just cannot do with proof of stake. Um, and so I kind of really uh, think there's something really awesome that you have there, and the other cool thing with proof of work that will happen, I think more so than it would with proof of stake, is that obviously we're going to be having large blockchains. Their proof of stake, once Ethereum turns to proof of stake, there's going to be faster transactions. We're going to have bigger blocks. So the thing that you'll have with proof of work is, the miners, they're the only people that really need to have the entire blockchain, because they need to make sure they're working on the valid blocks, right? Full nodes, there'll be some full nodes out there, maybe those are banks, or, those are people that are doing very large transactions that need to be sure that they're watching the right blockchain, and they have valid blocks. It's important to realize that then the miners are going to also create probably the next wave of hard drives. Right now it's Western Digital, SanDisk, and all them. And now it's going to be miners who are going to create new hard drives, because they need to be able to store the blockchain. And so I think you have this really entrepreneurial spirit within the proof of work system, and it just really increases the security of the system a lot. So yeah, that's I'm Gurinder from The Den, and hope you liked that video.